Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Texas Weather Watch. Today is June 22nd, and right now I want to show you the dynamic tropopause potential temperature. Don't get caught up in that name here. What I want to show you is the visual diagram here of what's going on across the state over the next week. I mean, look at this counterclockwise rotation, this big ridge just dominating Texas. Historical heat likely, and a very moist air mass here is going to give rise to some extreme heat indexes. Has already been the case here for the last few days at least, but this is going to continue on through next week. If you go out far enough, you can, of course, in the model see some kind of relief, but you can see you got to look way out towards the 10-day time frame here. So that's looking at in fantasy land. The takeaway from this is these excessive temperatures are going to be going on in through next week. This is looking at yesterday's NAM 3KM 18Z run. You can see some of the heat indexes across the state up towards 120 degrees here, but watch what happens. This is where you can get some temporary relief. This thunderstorm that developed here across Texas here chops down across that air mass and does bring some temporary relief to those temperatures there. Of course, you do bounce back the next morning and afternoon, but not quite as much if you notice. However, those are going to rebound here as you go on in through the preceding days, as you go on into the weekend and on into next week. But you can get some relief from these afternoon and evening thunderstorms moving across the area. So, you got to look at hope no matter where it comes from, even if it's in the form of thunderstorms. Now, looking at 2-meter dew point temperature, look at some of these readings all the way into the lower 80s to the Gulf Coast. 70s extend all the way across the Panhandle up towards Colorado yesterday. Now, as you can see, the thunderstorm developed right on that moisture boundary there, and it does try to balance out some of that very moist air mass. It's not that great at doing it, though. You can see that you got some 60s still. I mean, it's relatively dropped from where it was, but mid and upper 60s are still just oppressive dew points here, especially when you got temperatures in the 90s or close to 100 degrees. And then you can kind of see the return of that air mass. Look at this mid 70s and encroaching on much of the state up towards 70 across a lot of the Texas Panhandle as well. Some dry air tries to get in and bring some relief here as you go on in through the weekend and next week, but it's not going to make much progress across the state of Texas. Now, this is looking at yesterday. You can see the initial development of a storm here and across Colorado, which, by the way, was probably one of the tornadoes of the year yesterday up there. And then you can see the development of the thunderstorms across the Texas Panhandle really coming down. And, there was a fatal tornado with here. I think there was 4 fatalities and a lot of damage associated with that. And on the bright side, it did cool things down across a lot of the state here, but you can really see the development. And this thing had some big overshooting tops, probably approaching 70,000 feet into the atmosphere. Very impressive. And then you can see those thunderstorms die, and then we rinse and repeat. We're going to kind of do the same thing again today across some of the portions of the high plains and potentially across Texas as well. So very interesting to watch these thunderstorms develop and propagate across the state, and it does bring some relief from that oppressive heat. This is looking at tornado reports. You can see the red, northeast Colorado stole the show yesterday. There was that tornado across Texas. You can see 4 fatalities and 9 injuries here, significant damage there. So if you can help out, that was in Motley County out there, Texas, Matador, Texas there yesterday. This is looking at day 1 categorical outlook here. Again, chance for severe weather across the high plains, including much of Texas. Day 2, rinse and repeat, mainly West Texas included there. And of course, the National Weather Service is all over this. These are not heat indexes, folks. These are actual temperatures here. So you've got big dew points. The heat index is going to be significantly higher here on in through next week. This is looking in through July 5th. Look at this excessive heat possible across much of the state here. It's going to include some states, surrounding Texas as well as Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, New Mexico also. And there's just not much relief in sight for the state here. And some of the wording with the National Weather Service is pretty stark. But here we're looking at the European on the left versus the GFS ensemble mean on the right. Here's the state of Texas. Look at the ridge just dominating here. Put this into motion. And this is at 18,000 feet, about 500 millibars. But it just kind of shows the upper air pattern here and the ridge just dominating the weather here all the way out through this weekend here. And this is going to hang on through next week as well, but you can kind of see the pattern. This is not going anywhere soon here, folks. Now, this is looking at 24-hour, 2-meter temperature max. This is not a heat index here. So I'm just scrolling through Friday, Saturday, And we're going into Sunday, and you can see these temperatures do not fluctuate that much. And again, these are not heat indexes, folks. This is just the actual temperature here across the state. And of course, the further you go east, the deeper the moisture, the worse the heat index is going to be here. But you can see the temperatures aren't quite as high. But this is just kind of getting ridiculous. This is next Wednesday here, and you can see not much relief coming for much of the state of Texas. Some of the strong wording there from the National Weather Service. Austin, San Antonio, Texas. This historic heat wave may continue into early July with no clear signs of the pattern breaking here. So, yeah, I wish I had better news for you across the state of Texas. But again, one of those things here is you can get some of these afternoon thunderstorms to bring some relief, if only temporary. And this is the GFS. I'm just running through total precipitation coming. We're now moving into Friday morning, and you can see some of these areas of thunderstorms that will be moving across the area, bringing at least relief for that, maybe those evening hour periods there. So scrolling through the weekend here, you can see some precipitation, but not too much here. It doesn't even look like a lot of thunderstorm activity going on in through Sunday here across much of the state. So anyway, yeah, stay tuned to your local National Weather Service forecast out there. And I mean, if you live in Texas, you got to be a professional at beating the heat anyway. But still, even for Texas, this is historical coming up here. So anyway, yeah, so I'm going to just continue to do these briefings. I'll try to cover interesting weather around the USA or around the world as we get a little bit slower here across the west coast of North America. But I will do my daily briefings here for the Pacific Northwest as always. So leave some comments below. Let me know what you guys would like to see, and I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.